So we have studied in chapter 2 of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So far, Srila Sutta Goswami has presented to us that sadhana bhakti, which leads to love for Krishna, that is the paro dharma. And that is what will deeply satisfy the self. Yanatma suprasidati. And that is also the essence of all scripture. So once we understand that, we start to practice bhakti, which quickly produces jnana and vairagya. And what about varnashram dharma? The purpose of varnashram dharma, or doing our duties according to our varna and ashrama, which is according to our situation. Swanushtata. What is your situation? May be different from my situation, and therefore our duties may be different. But the ultimate purpose of all those duties is to evoke relish for Krishna Katha, to evoke taste for Krishna Katha. If it does not, then it's only useless labor. It's a waste of time and energy. So if we have to practice, bhakti which leads to prema, that's sadhana bhakti, and our varnashram activities should also lead to a taste in Krishna Katha. And we discussed at length that Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, these are the primary activities of the soul. Whereas karma is still at the body mind level. So when we want to rise to the constitutional platform, Swarupa platform, then our faith should be in Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. And what did we see is the purpose of dharma? Purpose of dharma is apavarga, not artha and kama. Artha is only for maintenance, jiveta. And the rest of our time, energy, and intellect should be used in tattva jigyasa. And what is that tattva? We understood that advaya gyan, that satyam param, to be accessible in three features, in three progressive features of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So this is what we should dedicate our lives energy for Tattva Jigyasa. And the nature of that Tattva is this, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So now the question is that, okay, we understand that I have to realize Bhagavan and I should dedicate my life to Tattva Jigyasa. But what is the practice? Give me a method to realize that Tattva. That's presented in verse 12. Let's chant. तच्छ्रद्दधानमुनयो ज्ञानवैराग्ययुक्तया पश्यन्ति आत्मनि चात्मानं bhaktya shritagृहीतया. So a very beautiful verse which describes to us the process of realizing the absolute truth. Process of realizing that tattva. What does it say? The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service, bhaktya. How? In terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti, by rendering bhakti according to Vedanta Shruti, Shruti, scriptures, Shrutagrihi. So this is the process of realizing the tattva. The sages, it says, Munayo, Tat Shraddadhanam Munayo. So those seekers, those who are sincere seekers of the absolute truth. Yeah, and there are different categories in this. There are different categories of transcendentalists. There are jnanis, there are yogis, there are bhaktas. So what is the difference? The jnanis realize, when we'll even see this in the Bhagavad Gita, how one approaches, the process of one realization is to approach the absolute as Brahman. Yeah. For them, what is their realization? Pashyanti. Pashyanti means to realize or to see, literally see. Pashyanti. Atmani cha atmanam. So what does this Atmani Chatmana means? That will change according to which category of Munaya. Munaya means sages of different opinions. That's the meaning of Munaya. So according to which category the Muni would fit, Gyan, Yog or Bhakta, their realization will change. Pashyanti means their realization. Atmani Chatmana will change. So for the Gyanis who approach the absolute truth as Brahman, what will their realization be? Atmani cha Atmanam. So they realize the Jiva as the Lord. So they equate the Atma and Paramatma. Tattvam. You are that Lord. You, the Jiva, are that Lord. Okay. And those munis who approach the Lord as Paramatma, when they meditate, that beautiful process of meditation is given in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll arrive at that. So they meditate on the Lord in the heart. That is Atmanam. So Atmanam refers to the heart. And what they realize Paramatma in the heart. Atmani, Atmanam. So that Atmanam is referred to as Paramatma, where Atmani. So Atma can refer to soul, it can refer to intelligence, it can refer to heart, according to the context. So in the context of yogis, it is said that the Atmanam, which means the Paramatma, will be realized in the heart, Atmani. And those who conceive of the absolute truth as Bhagavan, for them they will realize Bhagavan in his personal feature, yeah, directly in front of them, and not just have darshan, because we discussed Bhagavan has the additional attribute of Anand. They will also taste the sweetness of the Lord. That is the additional part of their realization. Okay. So this is how the Munaya realize Pashyanti in different ways. So what is the process? Bhakti. So do we mean that Jnanis, yogis, they also do bhakti? They have to do bhakti. That is the principle we will be discussing now.
So, Prabhuji, can we say that the Gyanis realize their Supreme Personality as Brahman and
Yes,
yogis as Paramatma and devotees as Bhagwan, right?
exactly. Exactly. Yes. So what is the process of realizing in each of these respective paths? Through bhaktya. Bhaktya means, you know, bhaktya means basically three things. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. And there are Navvida Bhakti, and Srila Rupa Goswami gives 64 limbs of Bhakti in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Although he says there are many, many more. So when we say Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, please understand we are talking about Shuddha Bhakti. So Bhaktya, which means Shravan Kirtanadi Lakshanam. That practice which has the symptoms or the attributes of Shravan Kirtan, which means it is not karma, it is not varnashram, it is directly Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting about the name, fame, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. So that is the meaning of the word bhaktya used in this verse. So that by bhaktya, so the worshippers of Brahman and Paramatma, they must also perform bhakti. Their practice should also involve bhakti directed to Bhagwan, even if they want to perfect their own sadhana. So they're doing Gyan sadhana and Yoga sadhana, but if they want the result of their Gyan sadhana and Yoga sadhana, they also have to necessarily include bhakti to Bhagwan. Yeah, because without the presence of bhakti, no sadhana will give its result. Okay. Brahman realization will also not be possible if there is not a presence of bhakti. But yeah, that bhakti is not genuine bhakti. It is a transactional bhakti because you want a certain end. Therefore, you're saying, okay, if it requires worshipping Vishnu, so be it, I'll do it. That is not coming out of love. That's coming out of desire for the fruit of your sadhana. Okay. So, jnana and vairagya is also mentioned. So, the process, jnana vairagya yukta. So, this jnana and vairagya which are mentioned here are to be seen as limbs of bhakti because in just the previous verse we saw in verse 8, sorry, in verse 7, we saw that performance of bhakti quickly leads to the birth of jnana and vairagya. So then jnana and vairagya come due to the performance of bhakti. They can be seen as limbs of bhakti. So this is that jnana and vairagya which is coming from the practice of bhakti. Okay. And what is this jnana? This is not jnana of Brahman or impersonal feature of the Lord. This is Bhagavad Aishwarya Jnana, which we find in the middle six chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, where Sri Krishna is presenting his vibhutis. Yadyat vibhuti matsattvam, where Sri Krishna is presenting his Aishwarya. Pashyame yogam Aishwarya, the mystic powers of Krishna. So that Gyan is being mentioned here. Okay, so don't mistake this for the regular dry speculative Gyan. So Jnana and Vairagya may be separate sadhanas for the Jnanis and Yogis, but for the devotees, Jnana and Vairagya are byproducts or concomitant results of the performance of bhakti. Yeah, because what happens? How does Jnana arise for a devotee? Because a devotee loves the Lord, they desire to know about the Lord. If you love someone, you want to know more and more about them. So that is the Jnana feature of Shuddha Bhakti. Please tell me more about Krishna. Any conversation, whether it is Arjun asking Sri Krishna or the sages asking Sutta Goswami or Parikshit Maharaj asking Shukdev Goswami, they say, please continue, we want to hear more. So that desire to acquire knowledge about Krishna is coming from love for Krishna. So that is the jnana. And vairagya means because now you have a spiritual relish and realization, you lose taste for material pursuits. That is the vairagya. Okay. So separate cultivation of jnana and vairagya are not required in bhakti. Please note this in your books and in your mind. Okay. So Srila Prabhupada.
It's different
Yes.
from Tattva Gyan. This Gyan is different from Tattva Gyan.
Uh, See, this jnana is jnana about the attributes of Bhagwan. So when we speak of Tattva Gyan, one feature of Tattva Gyan is Bhagwan. So
Right.
now this is about the attributes and the qualities of that Bhagwan.
One.
So you
But not
compare
the
it to
Paramatma
part
and
of
Brahman
it.
feature, right? Just the qualities and the attributes about the Bhagwan feature, not the Paramatma and Brahman feature.
Bhagwan feature.
Bhagwan.
Yes.
Okay.
Because Paramatma and Brahman, they don't manifest attributes. Paramatma doesn't reciprocate. All what we hear about Paramatma is Upadrishta Anumanta, overseeing and sanctioning, like a witness, like a silent witness. So, therefore, when we talk of this Gyan, it is about the attributes and sweetness of Bhagavan. Okay, so Prabhupada is saying that Tattva can be realized fully only by the process of devotional service. This also comes in Bhagavad Gita 18th chapter 55th verse. Bhaktyamam avijanati yavan tattvataha. If you want to know me tattvataha, in truth, in entirety, as much as possible for a jiva, that can be achieved only by bhaktya. Okay, so Bhagwan can be realized Absolute truth can be realized in full by the process of bhakti, which means Bhagwan realization. Brahman realization is just the effulgence of the transcendental body of the Lord. And Paramatma feature is his partial representation, a localized representation of Bhagwan. Okay? So both Brahman and Paramatma realizations are partial. This is first thing what Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. Therefore, if you want to have the full realization, that is possible only by bhakti. Bhaktya Shrita Grihitaya. And then there are different categories of people in this world. Talking about Munaya. First is karmis. They're just outright materialists. They have no transcendental goal or interest. But then, apart from karmis, there are jnanis, yogis, and bhaktas. These three fall under the category of transcendentalists or munaya. And they realize the same absolute truth in different features of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan, as we have discussed. So, Brahman and Paramatma realization are imperfect realizations of the absolute truth. So, if the realization itself is imperfect, therefore the means of reaching that realization would also be perfect. Yeah, wouldn't you agree? So, that means full realization of absolute truth can never be had by jnana or yoga. When we are fixed in oral reception of Vedanta Shruti, Shruta Grihitaya, we have discussed this earlier, that how we take knowledge from scriptures. That's Shruti Praman. That is the only perfect method by which a seriously inquisitive student, Munaya, can realize the absolute truth. Okay? So devotional service is for full realization. Those who are, incomplete in their understanding, for them, this full realization is not possible. So then Srila Prabhupada talks of the three adhikaris. Kanishta. Now we are focusing on bhakti. Within bhakti, there are three levels. Kanishta, who just worships the Lord in the deity form in the temple. They are called Prakrit Bhaktas. Prakrit Bhaktas means material devotees. They are not able to see the spirit. They are only able to see the matter, the form. So they are material devotees. So devotees with material desires, with material vision, there are a category of those devotees. Prakrit Bhaktas, the Kanishtas, the neophyte, the immature. So these kind of Kanishtadikaris are more attached to material benefit than transcendental profit. So they might appear as devotees, but their interest is material benefit. They're using bhakti to gain material gain. Okay. Material profit. They are not interested in any transcendental goal. Therefore, one has to make definite progress from Kanishta to Madhyama. Please mark this in your purport. One has to raise himself or herself at least to the stage of a second class devotee, which means a Madhyamadhikari, and thus become eligible to know the absolute truth. So if we stay at Kanishta, we will not sustain, we will not progress. Yeah, it will be come and go. So if you are serious, if you want to sustain in spiritual life in the path of bhakti, you have to raise yourself to the Madhyama Adhikari level. That is why we are doing this. Swadhyay. We want to understand Krishna. We want to practice bhakti with deeper conviction. Yeah. So, therefore, a Kanishta should receive instructions from authoritative sources, Shrutagrihitaya. So, perform bhakti, not Gyan, not yoga. And how do you perform bhakti? By Shrutagrihitaya. That is the method of realizing the tattva. That is what this verse is saying. So, Bhagavata is the person Bhagavata, self-realized Bhagavata, and then there is the message, the book Bhagavata, the Granth Bhagavat and the Mahabhagavat. So therefore, a Kanishta should approach Granth Bhagavat and Guru Bhagavat or Vaishnav Bhagavat for learning the instructions of devotional service. And who is this Mahabhagavat or person Bhagavat? They are not a professional man who earns a livelihood by the business of Bhagavatam. That is not the Bhagavat we are talking about here, okay? Because if we want to progress, upgrade from Kanishta to Madhyama, we have to take the association of Mahabhagavat devotees and of Bhagavatam, the Grantha, which is exactly what we are doing. So the person Bhagavat is not a professional reciter. Okay. But the problem is not only of the professional reciters, it's also the audience who wants to be cheated. So only when they are, it's a combination of the cheaters and the cheated. So a true Bhagavat would be a representative of Shukdev Goswami, like Sutta Goswami, and they present the path of devotional service for the benefit of all. Savai Pumsa Parodha. So what is the problem on the side of the audience? That they themselves do not have a taste for hearing. Mm. A neophyte devotee has very little taste for hearing from authorities because that doesn't sound sensational. That doesn't sound fascinating. It doesn't tickle your intelligence or, arouse your mind. So therefore, a professional will dish out what is appeasing to the audience, but not what is the truth. And the audience also similarly is, least interested in the truth. The audience just wants appeasement and pacification and false hope. So easy to mislead ignorant people. Unfortunately, there are some innocent people also in that category. But it is our responsibility to not remain gullible. We should know what we should actually be seeking. Yeah, if we don't know what a real diamond is, then anyone can cheat us and sell us a fake diamond, right? So it is equally our responsibility of the hearers. Such a neophyte devotee, because they don't have taste for hearing the truth from authorized teachers, they also make a show of hearing from the professional man to satisfy their senses. They also want to have some spiritual entertainment. So they also, okay, bring a professional. But what is happening? There is no spiritual content in that conversation. It's just one for one, it's livelihood, for the other, it's entertainment. And it's so sad, it's so pervasive around us. So one should be very careful about this faulty process. See, Bhagavatam is transcendental, like milk which is pure. But what if a snake touches a milk? Will you still drink that milk? Because milk is so pure and it has so many good qualities. Will not, because now we know that that milk has been poisoned. So similarly, the transcendental messages of the Lord, when they fall in the wrong hands, they are poisoned and we should not accept that. We should not say, भागवतम ही तो सुना रहे हैं भागवतम सुना रहे हैं but उनमें उनकी श्रद्धा मिश्रित है. They have contaminated it with their mixed faith. That is what you will get. Or mentor or teacher or guru can only take you as far as they have realized. So that's what you will get. A sincere devotee must be prepared to hear from Vedic literature, Shruta Grihitaya, Upanishad, Vedanta, and other literatures left by previous authorities or Goswamis for the benefit of one's progress. Very important. Without hearing such literatures, one cannot make actual progress. We might have a social affiliation. Yeah, we spend time, but are we making progress? Prabhupada is saying without hearing such literatures, one cannot make actual progress. And without hearing and following the instructions, the show of devotional service, because it then just remains the externals, the symbols, that show of devotional service becomes worthless. Not just worthless, it becomes a disturbance in the path of devotional service because other people will consider you to be a devotee, whereas because we have not, you know, studied these literatures, it's only superficial. We are only looking like a devotee from outside, but people will take us seriously as devotees, and out of our ego, we'll also continue to lead them or advise them. So it is also creating a disturbance in society when those who are not qualified are advising and leading. So basically, Srila Prabhupada at one point of time said, yes, our movement has expanded. We have many followers now. Now it's time to boil the milk. It's time to condense because, if you want to sustain, like we saw here in Prabhupada's own words, one has to rise to the Madhyama level at least. So we have to practice bhakti based on Shruti, Smriti, Purana, and Pancharatra. And the make sure of devotional service should at once be rejected. There's a verse which is quoted by Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Shruti, Smriti, Purana Adi, Pancharatrik Vidhi Vina. उत्पात एव ही कल्पते एकांत की हरि भक्ति उत्पात एव ही कल्पते so one may be practicing bhakti but if it is not based on shastra utpat eva hi kalpate that kind of ekantiki or independent bhakti independent of authorities independent of guru sadhu shastra that kind of independent whimsical bhakti utpat eva hi kalpate only creates nuisance. That is what Srila Prabhupada is presenting here. So we should practice bhakti by following the messages from the Vedic literatures. And then we realize the truth. We realize Bhagwan. That is called samadhi. Okay. So this is the method of realizing the tattva, which we saw in verse 11. Now, what is the conclusion? Conclusion, especially about Varnashram. So we saw in verse 8. Swanushtita, that dharma which we perform according to our prescribed duties, Varnashram dharma, that should lead to taste for Krishna Katha, Krishna Leela. And in verse 13, that is concluded. Well, let's chant. Atha pumbirduja shrestha varnashram vibhagashah swanush swanushtistasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's occupation and according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. So, Varnashram duties you may do, but even to do those perfectly means to please Hari. Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. Please remember this phrase. Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. The perfection of our karma is to please Hari. Yeah. And if it doesn't lead to pleasing Hari or doesn't lead to developing a taste for knowing more about Hari, then it is a waste of time. Yeah. So, Varnashram duties are a wasted endeavor if they don't evoke taste for Krishna and Bhakti, or if they don't lead to satisfaction of Hari. So in itself, varnashram duties don't have inherent value. Their purpose is to bring us to a platform where we can please Hari, bring us to a platform where we can develop faith in hearing, chanting. So it will bring you to Sattvagun. But will it give you taste for hearing and chanting? No. Karma cannot. Varnashram dharma can never give taste for hearing, chanting. That is bhakti. And you remember we discussed bhakti is ahituki. Bhakti can only lead to bhakti, not karma. So Varnashram dharma can best bring you to a sattva gun. It can bring you in the association of devotees where you get their mercy and you develop taste for bhakti, harikatha. That is what is presented as pleasing Hari, Haritoshanam. And we discussed in the previous verse, even Jnana or Yoga, if they don't have the component of bhakti, they are also wasted endeavor. So karma, Jnana, Yoga are wasted endeavor if they are not accompanied by bhakti. Yeah. So there's this beautiful verse in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 14, verse number 4, which says that if somebody gives up bhakti and engages in jnana, it is just undergoing a troublesome process. You will just get trouble, you will not get any result. Like, you know, there is wheat and when there is a fresh harvest of, say, wheat or rice, paddy. So what is there? The grain is within the husk. But if you remove the grain, if you remove the main substance, and you're just beating the empty husk. So the process earlier of removing, separating the husk from the grain was to beat it. So if you're just beating the empty husk and the grain has already been removed, beating that empty husk is like speculative knowledge. Jnana without bhakti. What will you get? You will only get trouble. You will never get the grain or self-realization. Okay. And we have discussed another verse, and this is also very important, therefore it keeps repeating. Naishkarmya api achyuta bhavam varjita. So even if one has reached the level of self-realization, if they don't have faith in bhakti, if they don't have taste for Krishna Katha, it is incomplete. It looks very pale. That is the point. Okay. So what are we saying? What kind of bhakti should we perform? Only pure bhakti, not mixed. Jnana karmadi anavrita. It should be unmixed with karma, jnana, or yoga. Only then, yenatma suprasidati. Only then it will completely satisfy the self. So people might find jnana and yoga also, attractive. But point is, they depend on bhakti to give the results of their, performing them. So to get the results of jnana and vairagya, you have to depend on the performance of bhakti. But bhakti gives its results without the assistance of jnana or yoga at all. Please make this clear in your head. We might be fearing, oh, what if I don't practice jnana or yoga? Will I actually, is bhakti enough? Jnana and yoga are not enough without bhakti. Bhakti in itself is perfect and complete. So bhakti by itself is sufficient to give results. Its results. It doesn't need the assistance of jnana and yoga, whereas that is not true for karma, jnana, or yoga. So if one pleases the Lord by bhakti only, that is the perfection of yoga. Okay, this is what is being said in verse 13. You will satisfy Hari if please the Lord by bhakti alone. Pure bhakti will please the Lord. And that is the perfection of your dharma. Yeah. So, I mean, somebody might perform karma with all its rules and regulations, but they might not even get perfection of the karma marg. Yeah. So, whereas somebody who performs bhakti directly, they can attain perfection even if they don't perform the karmas. So, please understand the dependency. Yeah. Even if somebody is performing karma perfectly, they might not get perfection. But even if but if somebody is performing bhakti directly, they'll attain complete perfection without any other assistance. So there is this beautiful verses. We'll keep referring to them again and again. This come in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 20, verses 32 and 33, which basically say that you can do any kind of karma, tapasya, jnana, vairagya, yoga, dan, dharma, yeah, and all other means of perfecting life, all of what these can give, that is easily achieved by my devotee through loving service unto me. Sarvam mad bhakti yogena mad bhakto labate anjasa. So ये लोग इतनी मेहनत कर रहे हैं. Our devotee will get it easily, anjasa. Mad bhakti yogena, by performing bhakti yoga unto me. All of the fruits of all of these other process will be available. So please understand, bhakti can give you everything that karma, jnana, and yoga can give you, and more, which is love of God. Whereas the other paths cannot give you even the results of those paths without depending on bhakti. Okay. So the idea that if we don't perform karma, are we losing out on anything? Are we performing sins? That should be rejected. Once we understand how these paths are dependent on each other and bhakti is independent, after after beginning to practice bhakti, we don't need to practice karma. This should be very clear. There is no sin or no loss. So, is this clear? Any questions so far? Yes, Prabhu?
Prabhuji, I had actually three questions. I'll try to ask at least one. Prabhuji, first question was like when we say that Jnana, okay, it is clear that Jnana means we are talking about Aishwarya Jnana of the Supreme Lord. But specifically Vairagya, I wanted to understand two things. Like generally when we hear classes in like temple or from devotees, there is talk about we have to battle our anathas, we have to increase sattva guna, only then we can practice bhakti. From the context of today's discussion, I'm wondering if it's actually the reverse, that we try to focus on hearing and chanting more directly, and then that will naturally increase sattva and remove anarthas. And putting, sort of focusing on battling anarthas is like putting the cart before the horse. So, are these discussions actually valid, or is this coming from like a wrong understanding?
No, that is in fact the conclusion that by focusing on developing our attraction and attachment to Krishna, Vairagya follows naturally. So, we don't need to separately endeavor for detachment. That's the Gyan or Yoga mark. Their focus is, let me still my mind. Let me detach from matter. So they are not looking for a positive, you know, object of their attraction or attention. So they may attain detachment from matter, but then they will be stuck at that neutrality, what to do after that. Whereas devotees start by fixing their minds on Krishna, and then detachment from matter naturally follows. So that
Because
is the conclusive understanding.
okay. So just recently I had heard in a class by another devotee that you know the reason we are not able to make advancement quickly, or the reason we don't develop a taste for Krishna, is because we are not in Satvaguna, or because we are battling anarthas. Uh, is I mean, then in this understanding is not correct then, because then it's like, then the correct understanding, is it right to say that actually it's because of offenses, and the only thing we need to do is kind of beg for forgiveness from those offenses, and the anarthas actually have no power to block our attraction from Krishna. Instead, if the offenses are forgiven and we get attraction to Krishna, the anarthas will fly away. Is that correct?
Yes, that is what we will see in verses 16 and 17. It is by Shinvatam Swakatha Krishna that the abhadras go away. It is not by cultivating sattva. So we cannot again create a material cause for bhakti. Has to be preserved. The principle of bhakti being ahituki has to be preserved. So therefore, endeavoring for sattva guna. What is the process of anartha nivritti? What is this, offensiveness, offense that we are talking about? That we will discuss in verse 17. Abhadrani. How do we overcome that? So, and the conclusion of that will be yes, through hearing and chanting. So, if you focus on hearing and chanting, everything else will follow. You don't have to specifically cultivate anything else. See, Sattvaguna, Bhagavad Gita presents to us the idea of following Shastra, coming to the level of Sattva. But chapter 17 says even that is incomplete unless you add Om Tat Sat. So Bhagavad Gita is accepting that reaching Sattvaguna is not sufficient. You have to direct everything to the divine. So how in Bhagavatam can we not make hearing and chanting about the divine the center of the method? Sattvaguna is long gone.
Okay. So last question on this theme, just to conclude that we sometimes also hear that, Sattvagun is the favorable platform for practicing bhakti, but that's only in the sense that we actually get more time for associating with the limbs. It's not that the sattva itself is responsible. Is that correct?
We can call Sattvaguna as a stepping stone. It is helpful. It creates a favorable environment to do Shravan Kirtanam Smaranam. It is difficult to do Shravan Kirtanam Smaranam from a Rajo and Tamoguni and disposition. So yes, it's helpful, but it is not dependent. There are stories of hunters becoming pure devotees.
Mm.
So there's something which is necessary and there is something which is sufficient. So yeah, it is helpful. It is a stepping stone. It's definitely favorable, but it is not a prerequisite. Okay.
Got it, Prabhuji. I had like one, two more questions. Can I ask now or should I take it later?
I can let's hear them. So if they are anyways coming up in the verses ahead, we'll take it then. Or if not, we could address it now.
So another question I wanted to ask is like about we talked about how the process which we should follow is to hear from the right source and ourselves. So like the hearer has to be sincere to try and understand the Bhagavatam as it is, and the speaker also must be not having their own agenda. So we understood the paid speaker concept, but I mean, I don't know if today there are people who actually pay for Bhagavatam anyway, but sometimes it does become say like because I myself have done this closely. Like suppose there is some management seva and some donation, something has to be correct. Then we give a class with a focus on kind of getting donation. So is this is something that should be avoided? Am I right from what this discussion? Because even this is agenda based, if not directly for getting money for myself, but there is some kind of managerial objective rather than just trying to present the verse from the Bhagavatam.
I mean, depending on the speaker's level of realization and purity of faith, that is what the audience will gain. That's the point. So if they are limited by a material pursuit, so the audience can never gain anything beyond that. So when we hear spiritual topics, it's not just words going in our ears, it's actually the faith of the speaker entering our ears and hearts. So the point is one who has a mixed faith, if you give oral reception to them, that mixed faith will enter your heart, which is what we are being cautioned against. So paid means it doesn't necessarily mean only paid speakers. It encompasses every every spiritual presentation which is done with a material gain in mind by people who are driven by material gain. If as a devotee under expert guidance you are engaged to do that, that may not fall in this category. Yeah. But again, that intention really has to be tested.
Mm.
Otherwise, in the name of, raising resources, we could all, do that. It brings in a different culture. So it has to be balanced by mature devotees.
And yeah, last question is, I think, just a simple direct confirmation. So we are basically saying that the purpose of Varnashram is to bring us in contact with association of pure devotees. If that doesn't happen, then it's not useful.
Exactly.
Yes, please. Okay.
To lead us to associate with pure devotees, gain their mercy, get an opportunity to serve them. That's the idea.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, so we were discussing that we should have no fear that discarding karma will have any negative repercussions. No, not at all. श्रद्धा शब्दे विश्वासे कहे सुदृढ़ निश्चय कृष्ण भक्ति कोइले सर्व कर्म कृत होए. So this is where we have to reach. Now the next discussion. Okay, we perform bhakti, we attain full realization. Yeah, even if you're performing other sadhanas along with bhakti, the other sadhanas will give their results. Now the question is, if you're performing a dharma or a sadhana along with bhakti, will you get the results of that sadhana also? Yeah, like a karma yogi performing karma but including bhakti. A jnana yogi performing jnana but including bhakti. They are including it secondarily. So yes, that dharma will also give its results. If we perform any dharma or any sadhana with material desires, one will attain those material desires, even if you are performing bhakti along with them. But that will not be Shuddha Bhakti. What I'm trying to say is, even if you're practicing a dharma along with bhakti, that it is bhakti which is enabling that dharma to give its result. But if you're performing it with material desires, you will get those material desires fulfilled. And that's not necessarily a good thing for an aspirant devotee. Okay, so the conclusion is, since other dharmas require bhakti, so bhakti is perfect and independent, and the necessity of devotees performing other dharmas is rejected. Yeah, and what is the verse we quote for this? Coming from the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yatha tarora mula nishechanena. When you water the root of a tree, tripyanti tat skanda bhujopashakhaha. It is energizing the trunk, branches, twigs, leaves, everything. Similarly, another example is you supply food to the stomach, so it enlivens the whole body. Similarly, worshipping Bhagavan through Shuddha Bhakti automatically satisfies the Devatas. Why? Because Devatas are part of the body of the Supreme Lord. Okay, so we don't need to worry. Very confidently we can perform bhakti without including any karma. The Lord Himself says, again in the very important 20th chapter of the 11th canto, till when should we perform karma? So this criteria is presented by Sri Krishna himself in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And please, note this verse and meditate upon it. This is very important and very frequently quoted. 11, chapter 20, verse 9. तावत् कर्माणि कुर्वीत न निर्विद्येत यावता मत्कथा श्रवणादौ वा श्रद्धावान् न जायते. So one should act according to Varnashram Dharma. If you are a Kshatriya, you should do Kshatriya Dharma. If you are a Brahmana, you should do Brahmana Dharma. But remember, we discussed they are still the Dharma of the body mind. They have a starting and an ending point. A Brahman Dharma is not good for all times, for all people. But Paro Dharma is good for all people at all times. Yeah. So till when should we perform our Varnashram Dharma? Shri Krishna says, Shraddhavan na Shraddha yavan na jayate. Till the time your taste or faith in devotional service. Devotional service means Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. Till the time our taste or faith in the activities of bhakti and activities of pure bhakti, which are our constitutional activities, till that time we have not awakened that taste, one should continue to perform our Varnashram duties. And we still have a fruitive desire in our heart. Uh, because we are not still satiated by fruitive activity. We still have faith in karma. Or let me put my energy to gain something which I can enjoy, rather than to sacrifice something by which Krishna can enjoy. So till the time we are not convinced of this, we cannot artificially jump. We cannot reject your Varnashram Dharma if we have not developed faith for Krishna, faith in Krishna and faith in Bhakti. Bhakti again means Shravanam Kirtanam Smaranam. And I should do these processes 24 hours a day. That is the faith in Bhakti we are talking about. Because if you reject Varnashram Dharma before developing faith in Krishna and faith in Bhakti or taste in Shravanam Kirtanam, rejecting karma will lead to sin. It will become weak karma. So, can directly practicing bhakti purify us from those, material desires, material attachments? Yeah, 100%. So, when we say that till you develop faith in bhakti, till you develop a taste for Shravanam Kirtanam, you should perform your Varnashram. The point is, Varnashram purifies us. And bhakti can also purify you. If somebody takes to the process of bhakti directly without using Varnashram as a purificatory process, they will achieve the end faster and surer. So direct bhakti is also first it purifies and then you can relish. This is how we should understand this. And the Lord Himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Karma Gyan Yoga Sarva Dharman Parityajya. What is the Dharma Bhagavad Gita is recommending? Sharanagati. Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. So just surrender. That is the only dharma you need to follow. That is the dharma of the soul. All other dharmas or all other sadhanas are of the body mind. They are upadhis. So instead of performing karma, we perform bhakti. Instead of worshipping the devatas, we worship the Lord. Yeah. And instead of being, careful of performing our varnashram duties, we perform activities which satisfy the Lord. The focus changes. And when the Lord is satisfied, Haritoshanam, and then you gain the goal of performing all other activities. The goal is to please the boss. If Krishna is pleased, the whole creation is pleased with you. Yeah, that is what we saw in the nature of Shukdev Goswami, because he was a pure devotee. He was so attractive to everyone. He could enter the minds of everyone. Right? So is this clear? The second part of this discussion that bhakti is independent. We don't need to perform any other dharma or sadhana. It is sufficient to give the result by itself. Okay. So first we saw that other parts are dependent on it, whereas bhakti is complete and independent in itself. Then we saw that there is a purification and presence of faith required to take to constitutional activities, the Swarupa Siddha Bhakti activities of Shravanam Kirtanam. But if we've not developed that taste and that faith, we should continue the purification through Varnashram or even through directly practicing sadhana bhakti. So these are the two concepts we discussed. Full confidence that I'm doing bhakti, sadhana bhakti. I don't need to separately perform any other karma or even jnana or yoga. Now the question is, Prabhuji, my family members are not devotees. Yeah. I have to perform certain pujas or certain karmas because there is pressure. Yeah. There is social pressure, there is tradition. So if you as a aspiring devotee, as a sadhaka, you are doing your bhakti, but your family is forcing you to practice karma. What will happen? Will it interfere with your bhakti? It will interfere with your shraddha? Is it offensive? Yes, Prabhu. Or let's hear from others first. You could guess. You are practicing bhakti, you are clear you want Krishna prem, and you know everything that we have discussed. But your family is telling you to practice other dharmas or karmas. How will that influence or interfere with your bhakti? Take a guess. It's okay.
Hare Krishna, Dandvat Pranam Prabhu. Can I say?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
until and unless you are firm, dridha in your bhakti and your sadhana, nothing else
Uh,
can affect. Again, if you are doing for the welfare of the family,
uh,
willingly, you are having faith in it, then that's okay. Krishna knows everything.
okay, good. That's very beautiful. Sahaj faith, simple faith. Yes, Mataji, you also wanted to share from them?
Prabhuji, you just said that bhakti is not dependent on these various, rituals or anything. If you're doing
Hmm.
bhakti, then, but if you're performing bhakti and in addition these rituals need to be performed, you will just get the benefit of these rituals without your bhakti getting affected by it.
Brilliant. Brilliant answer. So that's all the concepts you got together beautifully. Both the answers are right. It will not give any karmic results. The problem with karma is that it gives result, right? Reaction or karma phala. If you perform in this situation, they will not give results. Why? Because you don't have faith in karma. 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, if charity is given without faith, you're giving charity, but you don't have faith, then it will not bear any result. So any activity done without faith will not lead to a result. So we should be, completely happy. We are safe. Nothing to lose here. Okay, so this is this beautiful presentation of this verse that the purpose of Varnashram is to please Hari. So Srila Prabhupada says this natural division is present all over the world. There is the intelligent class, the martial caste, the productive caste, and the laborer caste. But the basis of this is not birth. The basis is guna karma, nature. And then there are orders of life, different stages of life, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. Why? What is the purpose of this varnashram? It is just to keep harmony and good health of society so that people are not mindlessly competing with everyone for everything. We understand that there is a purpose, which is purification of the self, and my swadharma can purify my swabhava. And that's what I do it for. So, it is to create a healthy, and Prabhupada says it is meant for smooth social intercourse. Society should be peaceful and healthy and harmonious, because in that environment, one can pursue tattva jigyasa, high thinking, self-realization. So purpose of this Varna and ashram is to settle everyone, so everyone can be peaceful in mind. From where they can perform bhakti. The aim of everyone in Varnashram, the aim must be to please the supreme authority of the personality of Godhead. Yeah. The Varnashram institution is constructed to enable one to realize the absolute truth. Ultimately, it's for Tattva Jigyasa. But for Tattva Jigyasa, you need a peaceful environment and a harmonious society. So, for that, it is not for artificial domination of one division over another. That out of ego, one division starts, Prabhupada says, when it is taken over by people who have too much attachment for indriya priti, sense gratification, then such selfish people utilize varnashram to achieve artificial dominance over the weaker section. So if you let people who are driven by kama, who want indriya priti, if you let them control varnashram, then it will lead to discrimination and exploitation, which is what has happened in society, and therefore varnashram system has got a bad name. But they don't understand the purpose. And any system, if it is in the hands of wrong people, it will have bad results. But doesn't mean the system is to be rejected. We don't need to throw the baby along with the bathwater. We should select qualified people to lead us in that. Okay. So this is the purpose of Varnashram. The saner section of people know it very well that the divisions of castes and orders of life are meant for smooth social intercourse and high thinking realization, not for anything else. So the purpose is to cooperate jointly for the satisfaction of the Supreme Law. Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. Okay. So we'll stop here for today. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.